Here we go. Haven't worn these babies in some time. My little Warby Parkers. I got my chart read for the first time, like thoroughly read by an astrologer the other week, and it was beautiful. It was like an hour and some change long. I learned so much about myself, but I also learned that I lack air in my big three. And he explained what that means and kind of how that could affect me. And a really big part of it was communication and getting out what's in here into real life. He's not wrong. Which is why Substack and writing and those things have been incredibly helpful. And getting my chart read, it being the beginning of the year, me becoming 25, a lot of time for reflection. I spend a lot of time writing and also like rereading the things that I write for Substack because a lot of the times I write for myself. The Substack I wrote a while back called You Are Worth the Mess You Make made a lot of points that I really like, and here I am doing another word vomit video based on some thoughts because I think it's healthy, and I'm trying to get up here, out here. We're trying. Would I consider myself a people pleaser now? Only sometimes. I guess this video is from a wannabe former people pleaser to hopefully another former people pleaser. That Substack was basically about not being afraid of being inconvenient to other people. Me learning how to not be afraid of the potential inconvenience that my growth could create for the people in my life. If you've ever had people pleasing tendencies, you don't want to rock the boat. You don't want to inconvenience anyone, even if that means inconveniencing yourself. One thing that the astrologer actually let me know in our very long conversation was that I often have a really hard time. I'm a Capricorn rising, right? I can be about my business when I want to, when I need to, and I am. However, when the Capricorn and my Cancer, because I have Cancer in my 7th house, I don't know, either way, they're like this on my chart. And he told me that I might find it hard to establish boundaries and to use my discernment when it comes to my generosity. And I was like, because when it comes to just business, when it comes to just work, I'm really, really, really good at using my discernment when it comes to my friends coming with me or coming to me for advice on certain things. I use my discernment so well. I trust my intuition. But for whatever reason, when personal and professional overlap, it's really difficult for whatever reason for me to use my discernment when it comes to me being generous. This led me to really kind of take inventory of my life and really take inventory of the love that I'm giving out. Am I getting it back? This is all word vomit, by the way, so try to follow me here. And I don't have a lot of friendships right now or people in my life that I feel wouldn't do the same for me as I would do for them, but there were definitely instances where I might have had a few. And one-sided friendship dynamics are very interesting. Definitely, and we all have definitely seen and felt and acknowledged those kinds of situations, especially as your friendships become a lot more intentional. I think a lot of my friendships when I was younger were based off of proximity. So the people I went to elementary school with, people my twin sister would be friends with now in my 20s, all of the friendships that I do forge are incredibly intentional. So I feel like it hurts in a different way. It hurts in a different way knowing that the friendship and the love in the friendship isn't reciprocated. I think the friendships I make now are a reflection of like myself and who I am now. So when they don't work out or they feel uneven, it feels different. Anyway, I had the situation where, you know, we were talking about the Capricorn and the Cancer, me having really good discernment in most, like 95% of my life. I trust my gut, I have good discernment, and then when love platonically or non-platonically is involved. I had a situation recently where I was talking to my therapist about this. I was like, I don't like to mix friends and work and business very much, honestly, especially when you work in such a personal, creative kind of industry already. There was a situation where I was reached out to by a friend, and that friend had someone that, you know, was looking for a job, and I was like, sure, I'll hook it up because of that friend. I wanted to be a good friend to that friend. And, you know, moving forward weeks and months later, I, you know, was honestly, there was a situation where I was doing like mental hurdles and like cartwheels and gymnastics to help this person out that my friend had basically like pushed towards me. And obviously at the end of the day, I was one that agreed to helping in the first place, right? And I understand that, but there was one situation where I was doing these mental gymnastics, trying to make this work out, really rallying for this person on behalf of the friendship that I had with the other person, right? And I was stressed out. And I took a step back and I was like, well, first of all, this is why I try not to have the two mix. But second of all, if I was that friend, right, and that friend were helping out someone close to me, I feel like I would want to water that friendship as much as possible, because I know when money becomes involved in business and all of those things become intertwined, friendships can be strained. And I would have felt like if that was a friendship I truly cared about, at least every so often I would have reached out to try and water the friendship. Hey, how are you doing? A simple, hey, hello, how are you? You know, a simple reach out every so often. Like, I would have done that knowing that now that there is this like inner tanglement of like business and money and friends, like knowing how that could kind of shift and alter friendship, I'd be the friend that would really want to make sure that it's known that our friendship is paramount. And so when I was doing these mental gymnastics and, you know, all of this work behind the scenes, really trying to advocate for this person, because I was like, I want to be a good friend. I really want to be a good friend. I took a second and I talked to my therapist about this, and also my pattern gave me a message about this as well. Would they do the same for you? I don't know. And I don't know, I think I just took it really personally, feeling like, damn, if that were me, if our roles were reversed, I would really try and make sure that they know I appreciate them outside of the money and the business and whatever. When you understand that a friendship is not being held equally on both sides, I think in order to use discernment in those situations, I really just had to sit down and tell myself that while my love is an unlimited resource, my energy is not. I really do have to start being mindful of the energy that I put into relationships in my life. And I think the former people pleaser in me, any idea of like pulling back or any idea of me kind of switching up now that I have, you know, this newfound information and understanding, I think I would have felt bad. I would have felt like it was messy, that I was making a mess, and that I could possibly be creating some level of inconvenience for the other person. And now I don't think that. I think when we think about the idea of our own change creating a shift in other people's lives, whenever we view that in like this negative way of like, this is so messy, this is gonna be so inconvenient for them, I think it's important to remember that everyone has to do that anyways. I think that if you're finding that what works best for you always works best for everyone around you all the time, you might just be a people pleaser. Not one to diagnose, but I mean, the Substack literally starts with, anything that dies is gonna scream. You add your ego into the mix and it's almost guaranteed. So I feel like there's not really a beautiful, cute, undisruptive way to become the best version of yourself. And I think that's what makes it so scary. I think when you grow so much in such a short period of time as well, it's like it's a little much. Also very exciting. One of my favorite ways to embrace the mess is to write about it. I think putting things out in words or even in like this video form is really, really helpful in like letting it go and not just having it live up here like I mentioned earlier. And I think the people pleaser version of myself also had a perfectionist version of myself within her. I don't know. I think moving forward, what's really helped is whenever I feel a sense of deep dread or doubt about a decision, while also feeling this immense feeling of like desire to do that thing. Like I have this like push to do something, but I'm also like equally terrified. I think what helps is understanding that doubt, and that kind of doubt, rarely ever meets you in the middle of something, which typically means that you must be at or close to the end, which means that you must be almost at the start of something new and potentially better. So whenever I feel that, I try to acknowledge it and also try to understand that it is a familiar feeling. I think a lot of the times before I've done some of the things I'm most proud of, I was the most terrified right before I did it. So I just try to remember that, I think. But it's all messy, and I don't think it's gonna stop being messy. So we might as well embrace it a little bit. I also think it's important to note that my taking inventory of the love and the energy that I give to the people in my life has never made me less inclined to give it. And that was my biggest fear. I was always afraid that by putting some level of discernment on that would affect my desire to be that way. And it hasn't at all. I think it's actually made it greater, just to the right people and for the right things. So it's time for me to make some dinner now, I think. Good talk, team.